Now, a three-hour talk between Russian President Vladimir Putin and US Special Envoy Steve Witkoff was termed as constructive by the Kremlin. The meet comes ahead of US President Donald Trump's Friday deadline for Russia to halt conflict or face new sanctions. Trump is also expected to speak with Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky as well.
A high-stakes meeting in Moscow, a meeting that will decide the fate of peace in the raging Ukraine-Russia conflict. US Special Envoy Steve Witkoff met Russian President Vladimir Putin on Wednesday in what's being called a last-minute mission to unlock a breakthrough. The Kremlin described the talks as constructive.
It was quite a useful and constructive discussion. When it comes to its topics, first of all, it was the Ukraine crisis, and the second topic were prospects of possible development of strategic cooperation between the US and Russia. On our part, in particular, on the Ukrainian issue, some signals were transmitted. Corresponding signals were also received from President Trump.
But time is running out. US President Donald Trump, who famously claimed he could end the war between 24 hours of taking office, has now given Russia until Friday to initiate movement towards peace or face new penalties. But Moscow has remained defiant so far. The 3 rounds of Russia-Ukraine peace talks in Istanbul have collapsed, with no ceasefire or any pact for truce, with both sides mounting violent attacks every now and then. The demand of both sides are still miles apart. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky wants Washington to dial up pressure on Moscow, but the Kremlin says if Ukraine wants peace, it must surrender more territory and cut ties with the West. Analysts believe Putin may stall for a while, offering just enough to avoid fresh sanctions, but they also warn that Trump's motive may be more about optics than outcomes.
Trump cares about, domestic politics, his own popularity at home. Americans care about gas prices, and if they cut Russia totally out of the global oil export market, inevitably oil and gas prices at the pump in the US would significantly increase.
At the White House, no clear word yet on what measures are planned, but Trump has floated a bold threat that include secondary tariffs targeting Russia's biggest trade partners, including China and India. The move would aim to stifle Russian exports, but would risk significant international disruption. With just 2 days to the deadline, Washington and Moscow now hold the keys to either pause the war or launch a new wave of sanctions. With agency inputs, Tripta Tripaঠি's report for DD India.